The Holy Gospel according to St. John, the 6th chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
After this, Jesus went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Sea of Tiberias. A large crowd kept following him because they saw the signs that he was doing for the sick. Jesus went up the mountain and sat down there with his disciples. Now the Passover, the festival of the Jews, was near. When he looked up and saw a large crowd coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread for these people to eat?" He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 6 months' wages would not buy enough bread for each of them to get a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they among so many people?" Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." Now there was a great deal of grass in the place, so they sat down, about 5,000 in all. Then Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. When they were satisfied, he told his disciples, "Gather up the fragments left over, so that nothing may be lost." So they gathered them up, and from the fragments of the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten, they filled 12 baskets. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they began to say, "This is indeed the prophet who has come into the world." When Jesus realized they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain by himself. When evening came, his disciples went down to the sea, got into the boat, and started across the sea to Capernaum. It was now dark, and Jesus had not yet come to them. The sea became rough because a strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and coming near the boat, and they were terrified. But he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." Then they wanted to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat reached the land toward which they were going. The Gospel of the Lord. So one of the major challenges of parenthood, especially parenting teenagers whose schedules rival that of the President of the United States, is mealtime. In theory, I am all for family dinners that take place at an actual dining room table with all members of my family in attendance. And when time allows and my freezer holds more than just chicken, like freeze-dried chicken nuggets and Eggo waffles, I am more than happy to serve grilled pork chops and green beans and rice on ceramic plates. But if I'm honest, much of the time my family meals look like drive-through dinners rather than these utopian communal gatherings. And we won't even talk about how I could really use that magical skills of multiplying fish and loaves when it comes to my grocery bill. But there is this other byproduct of meal provisions in my life, which makes it especially difficult. I am divorced, and so sometimes I really just want to buy a pizza because it will make my life so much easier, even if I know it's not the healthiest option out there. And 9 times out of 10, they will have had pizza the night before because their dad faces the same challenges I do. And I cannot serve them pizza 2 days in a row. At least in my mind, I can't. However, if you ask Cooper, my youngest son, he would be all for it. He could eat pizza 7 days a week for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and have absolutely no problem with it. Pizza is Cooper's go-to food. I actually think it's many people's go-to food. If we were to take today's gospel reading and put it in today's type of food he would be serving up pizza. We aren't necessarily fish and bread people, but we are pepperoni or Hawaiian or sausage and mushroom people. 2,000 years ago it was fish and bread. Today it would be pizza. Certainly you can find gourmet pizza shops which specialize in deep dish Chicago-style pizza, or New Haven, the thin crust pizza. But by and large, no matter what type of pizza you want, you do not need to go far to find a cheap, greasy slice of pizza when you're in a hurry, your cupboards are bare, or you have the hangries. You know that sort of conglomeration word? Hangry is a conglomeration of angry and hungry. And it's a phenomenon whereby some people get very grumpy and short-tempered when they are overdue for a feed. And Cooper gets the hangries a lot, which means I have the Domino's Pizza app on my iPhone to deal with such emergencies. Well, the disciples were not as fortunate. No Fish and Loaves app, no late night delivery service to deal with this band of hangry people that are now coming towards them. No, they have a boy with some fish and some loaves of bread, and they also have Jesus, but rather than just fix the situation, he apparently thinks now is a good time to start asking questions. Where are we going to get bread for these people to eat? I don't know. You are the guy in the miracle and sign business. Why are you asking us? Now, truth be told, there are a variety of interpretations for the fish and the loaves story. It can be thought of as a supernatural miracle where a boy's meager lunch was able to serve thousands of people with just a sleight of Jesus' hand. These unexplainable miracles, which some of us have experienced, I cannot begin to explain. And often miracles such as those speak better on their own. Not because they speak better on their own when they're not dissected and sort of thought to death. Not because the miracles of God can't withstand examination, but because our need for understanding often reduces God to theology and concept, rather than allowing God to remain as movement and as presence. And another interpretation for this story, which holds just as much validity, is what if everyone, following the boy's example, simply shared what they had, therefore ensuring that everybody's needs could be satisfied. In a world where we too quickly hold on tight to what is ours, and we're awfully slow to allow others' needs to infringe upon our own, the latter interpretation seems to hold just as much validity. It seems to be just as amazing, just as miraculous. It may be true that I prefer the second interpretation because it seems more logical, more doable, and more conceivable. The problem with this is that I can begin to think it's all under my control, which I know it isn't. Regardless, perhaps both interpretations illustrate the truth at the heart of a miracle. A miracle is whenever hope is answered, whatever that hope might be. I don't believe the disciples could have ventured. There's a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are they among so many people? If they didn't have any hope, why would they even bring up that fragment of food? If they didn't at least think something could come of it. Here in this story, the hope for food is fulfilled, and it's a miracle no matter how you look at it. The gospel story highlights the truth that there's enough to go around. Enough food, enough space, enough resources, enough money, enough kindness, enough. This is the lesson that many of us learned at the foot of our Sunday school teachers. So much so that I think it's hard for us to hear Jesus saying anything else. But what about other interpretations to this well-told story? Well, as I said, we aren't fish and bread people. Rather, we are pizza people. So I have a modern day version of today's gospel text.
I've been homeless on and off for the past 5 years. So it really sucks. But at least I know I can look forward to 11 o'clock when I know I can get some fresh hot pizza.
The first day of the pay forward program kind of started was when a gentleman walked in and he asked if a homeless person ever came in short, and he offered to pre-purchase a slice of pizza for the next homeless person. So he gave me $1. I ran out, got Post-it notes, put one up on a wall behind the register, told more people about it. Eventually, a couple days later, a homeless person came in, he had like 65 cents on him, and we told him to just keep the change. It was already paid for. He redeemed one of the pre-purchased slices. So now we've given away almost 10,000 slices of pizza.
I feel, well, welcome. I feel like, like I almost bought the slice, but I know I didn't.
I try to donate at least like $5 a week, and it's so funny because today I left my wallet and everything, and I had 78 cents in my pocket, and I just came out, I was like, I'm a little short. They were like, okay, don't worry about it. And that's a really great feeling, so I can imagine how the homeless people feel. And it's just a great thing, and the pizza is good. I'm from New York, so I know what pizza is.
Before I opened up Rose's, I just worked at a desk job in New York. I showed up every morning, did some computer work, and then, went home. Pretty regular stuff. I wanted to kind of do something new. I saw the success of the dollar pizza stores throughout New York, so I thought I'd open this place up and try my hand at it.
I've been 3 years off the streets. I was 7 years homeless myself as a veteran, and I finally got myself out of the rut, got myself an income, and I want to pay it forward,
Oh, just yesterday there was a guy that came in. He'd been homeless for like 8 months, and I hadn't seen him for like 3 months. And I'm like, yo, where you been at? He's like, yeah, I'm working now. Figured I'd buy a slice for someone else. I was like, that was awesome. Just a couple days prior, I had been like, man, I hope that guy's okay. And it turns out, he's killing it.
We don't always have a chance to come in and get fresh hot food whenever we can. And for people to donate money and, towards slices of pizza for us, really made a change in Philadelphia.
In a city with poverty rate that is higher than all other big cities comparable to it, to see such a show of compassion and brotherly love is really inspiring.
I think it's pretty cool how powerful something this kind of small and simple can be.
So a boy with some fish and bread, or a man with a pizza shop and some Post-it notes. Regardless, the story is pretty remarkable, right? Possibly even miraculous. So the guy, his name is Wortman. At last reporting, if you were to go to the statistics today, he's given away more than 23,000 slices of pizza in 4 months, which is more than 100 people a day, and it all started with something as insignificant as $1 and a Post-it note. $23,000 materialized seemingly out of thin air. Multiplying pizza slices, multiplying Post-it notes, multiplying smiles, multiplying grace. And it started with this notion expressed in the video of paying it forward, which is not a new concept at all. We've all heard of it. But as I was thinking about it, in light of what we know about Jesus, it doesn't quite fit. We don't have to earn favor with God by doing good deeds or sharing what we have. Nor do we have to do good deeds and share for miracles to happen. If we reduce the fish and bread story to share everything, or there's enough to go around, which is a fabulous moral construct, then we take Jesus out of the picture and place our salvation squarely in our own hands. But partway through the video, there is a guy who makes the most profound and articulate statement about God, which highlighted for me where our interpretation of the fish and loaves story has fallen short. Of course, this guy thought he was talking about pizza, but the guy postures, "It was almost like I had bought the slice, but I knew I didn't." He hands in his Post-it note and is freely given sustenance, and he did absolutely nothing to receive it. If this is not a statement on God's redeeming graces and saving mercies, then I don't know what is. For the homeless folks, Jesus is a slice of pizza. Or 2,000 years ago, Jesus was a piece of fish and a chunk of bread. Their bodies and minds and souls were nourished and sustained, and they had done nothing to earn it. If we could have asked the crowd then, they may have postulated, it was almost as if we had brought our own dinner. But had we stopped and thought about it, we would have remembered that we hadn't. Now, I can't help but wonder, in this crowd of 5,000 plus people, if everybody recognized the miracle that happened right before their eyes. We know that some did, right? We know that some did. But what's often true for me is I don't have the viewpoint to recognize the tiny graces that are fed to me daily, the love and the mercy that I have done nothing to earn, but I desperately need to satisfy my soul and my heart. See, maybe these stories aren't about there being enough, but rather about redemption and grace. God doesn't love us if we share or because we do good. God just loves us, period. Jesus may not be feeding you with fish or bread or even pizza, but the story of the 5,000 and the story of Rosa's Pizza promises us that God does feed us with exactly what we need to sustain our souls in times of need. You know, the guy in the video, my favorite line, the guy, he says, it's almost like I bought the slice of pizza, but I knew I hadn't. Maybe upon reflection, if we stopped and thought about it, we would say, it's almost as if we thought we could save ourselves. But had we stopped and thought about it, we realized we couldn't possibly. That every step of the way, Jesus has been filling us with grace and mercy and love and forgiveness.